Um, it's fresh, it's different, and the word that we use a lot is chunky. So it's everything is robust, big, and heavy designs, like in terms of weight, you know. And it's kind of going through everywhere, from the city to the farm, to the house, to the airship that we have, and to the strange world.
Yeah, I was going to say, so really just, working through both Avalonia and Strange World. Avalonia is, very much meant to feel like it could be, our world. It uses a different shape language. The Avalonia for the city itself is a lot of verticals, a lot of kind of boxy shapes. Part of Avalonia is then also the farm, which shape language wise is very much kind of horizontals, inspired by Don's own experiences growing up in a farm, in Iowa. And then, really for both of them on a color palette side, is kind of these green, brown, the feelings really more of what you consider to be Earth. And then once we get into Strange World, that all changes. The shape language becomes much more kind of curves, bubbly. One of the challenges I know for the art team was really then defining a color palette that differentiates it from Avalonia and the farm, which meant that they couldn't use the color green. The green really represented Avalonia. The characters wear green. The airship that we're traveling through uses green, and is meant to look foreign in that Strange World. So then once you got into Strange World, it was about making choices on the shape and the color palette to set itself away from, from Avalonia. And for each, we do travel through the Strange World. So, really kind of defining, tight palettes for each of the areas, so that the way I know Mehrdad likes to describe it is that you then go back and you say, oh, well, yeah, you remember that world that they were in, that was all kind of the oranges, or the yellows, so that you get a feeling for traveling through the movie.
For designing the world and the characters, we kind of overall path was pulp magazines, adventures, and French comic books. And for the world, more to the mountains, environments like Andes, Alp, Himalayas, even North Europe, like wherever we could find a huge mountain with peaks. And then we come to the farm, which Don sent me lots of pictures from their farm from Iowa. And then as you see, like it's go on. And like for me, living in the city, it was a long time that I haven't seen the farm. So it was amazing that how much you can see in the distance. And then that's a real world. So we kind of know it doesn't need explanation. What is that? We kind of buy that and we go for the story. And the challenge, the second part of challenge was, which was more challenging, was the Strange World. Everything is new. Everything you have to explain. If we have a plant that is burping in the background, but it's great, designed well, it looks well, you can touch it, but it's too close to the character, and the character is talking about something else. Now you have to push it to the shadow. Now you have to make it sit back. So designing something from scratch and having it to be serving the story first and then being its own world was so challenging and important.
Yeah, I was going to say, so we do travel through multiple places in Strange World, and they each kind of have their own character. the area that we first go into is very much this area that doesn't have a ground. That's really, it's built out of these platforms. And the platforms have had a life cycle. This is, I think, one of the exciting parts about building a world in a Disney animated movie is that we put a history in, like an evolution of how that world evolved. And it was very much built out of, there are trees in this world that will tend to grow and fuse together and create these larger and larger platforms that ultimately then other trees start growing off of, and that really characterizes that that area of Strange World. Some of the other areas are a little bit more cavernous, where they're going through what would feel more like a cave, or kind of this is what ultimately is a very large space, because even their airship is big, but some cavernous areas, some other areas that are really very, very open and have creatures flying through them the whole time. And then on a color palette side, each of them has their own color palette, so you do get this feeling and understanding that you're traveling through, all of these worlds.
We have an amazing art director of characters, Jin Kim, that he kind of have his touch in all the characters and everything. We were inspired by French comic books and overall comic books, and also pulp magazines, that what they represent, and also a big part was coming from a story. Don Hall himself had a first initial sketch for the character, so it was great to see all of these coming together. And then we have these characters for the main characters. Now we have to kind of have the whole the city. We have the city, we have farms, and for the costume of the characters, we kind of woven everything together. The pattern you see on the characters' shirt, you can see it on the buildings, you can see it in the other people in the city. So it was kind of starting from comic books, and then the evolution of every artist joining a team and bringing their idea. We have this artist, Limei Xie, and then she was showing us information and the research that she gathered, that in like the movie is like kind of early 1900, and if you go back in the time and go to village and go to places, like people decorate their buildings, their animals, their shirt with the same patterns, so everything is interconnected. So we have that, and everybody kind of add their touch to that.
Yeah, I was going to say the color palette plays a huge role, in Strange World. Mainly so that when you first enter into it, you immediately know you're in a totally different place. So the transition from Avalonia and the mountains that they travel through is so different in color, from that big reveal into the Strange World, that it really kind of like it sparks this emotion, in you of okay, well, I really have traveled, someplace totally different. And Mehrdad, and our team, we're also very good about, specifying that you want to try to keep that color palette not all over the place, but very unified. So each of the areas that we go through in the Strange World, has a color palette that is all kind of within a similar set of colors, to be able to keep it harmonious and not too busy that it would say pull away from the story and make your eye kind of go all over, the image. But then also to really kind of give it a sense of location, so that the color is one of the telling, bits of understanding, okay, well, I'm in this area, or no, I've traveled over to this other area.
Yeah, the creatures was the most fun. So we have every size of creatures. It's get bigger and bigger and bigger. We have creatures we call Transportosaurus. It's like dinosaurs, giant dinosaurs, and we have small creatures that it's like a plant. It's look like a plant. It has it's on the ground, and when you go to it, it's just fly off. So and then you have all these different colors and different size of creatures. But what was so amazing for me was when you see the movie all the way through, end of the movie, you know what's going on. When you go back and see the movie again for the second time, each one of them has a role, has a meaning, why they are there, why it's like that. And it was, the challenging part was we have characters running on top of other characters. It's like, which we call the stream. And then we have the huge character Transportosaurus that carry other characters we call nubbins, which is smaller, like all these different forms. And the other challenging part I'm excited is at some point Don came to us and said, what do you guys think if there is no face? They don't have any face, no eyes, no mouth. What do you think? And because we always like difficult challenges, and we said, yes, let's do it. So we designed it, and we have poses and everything for them. And the animation team did a great job on that, to bring a character that doesn't look like a character and you feel it. It's so cool. I'm so excited for everyone to see it.
I was going to say, so I'm most looking forward to sharing the sequence where we're in the strange world, and the characters are needing to kind of get across this open space, really that's that has no floor and is between all of these the platforms that really form the strange world. So they choose to run across one of the streams that are also flowing through the world. But those streams are actually characters themselves that are flying through space. So it's something that we usually try never to do, in an animated movie, which is we have hero characters running across a stream of other characters, which on a technical side as well is really, really difficult to try to make all of that work, and takes a coordination from a lot of different departments. Our crowds group, which works with the kind of the large numbers of creatures, along with animation, and I think it's a great sequence that really kind of sums up a lot of the big environment work that ended up happening, in Strange World, because we have a huge open, probably some of the largest vistas, in through the movie, along with it being filled with life and having the characters kind of run through all that space.